you just try something and fail without really measuring it or without really understanding what happened, then you're in the darkness, because then you could fail over and over again, but you don't learn from them.
Right.
So
it's all about the
I
learning.
love the idea of failing, but also measure what you're doing so you can then tweak it in the right way.
What would happen if we just told the truth?
Welcome to TruthWorks, where we dig into the nitty-gritty of leadership and work.
And what needs to change? I'm Jessica Neal.
And I'm Patty McCord.
Our journey together started in HR, but trust us, it's evolved into something wild, honest, and well, a bit rebellious.
So throw out the handbook. We're here to redefine rules to work for us, not against us.
Let's dive into another episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of TruthWorks. I am your host, Jessica Neal. And today I have a guest who I've known for a really long time. We haven't talked in eons, but I don't even know what year I met you, but it was way back in the day, and you were at Tesla. And my guest today, his name is Arnnon. But Arnnon is one of the most influential HR people operations leaders I think ever. So I'll just say that. And you have worked at Google, Tesla, and now you are at Snowflake. And having been in a similar role to you, I know how challenging these roles are, and I know how complex the whole situation is. And I'm not going to complain here. This isn't me complaining, but I think that what we do is the most challenging executive role, especially at the C-level. There's so many things on our plate, and a lot of times we are not prepared for them. So I am very excited for our listeners to learn from you and how to think about what our mission really is, and also to hear all the exciting things that you are doing at Snowflake. So welcome to the show, and good to see you, friend. It's been too long.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me to share this time with you.
Yeah. So let's tell everybody. I think it would be great for people to get to know your history kind of a little bit as I do. But you have been at some just incredible category defining companies, from Google to Tesla, and now you're at Snowflake, and you've been in the people world for a very long time. So tell people a little bit about your story, how you got started, and how your whole career happened. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I really looked at how I could go from different industries to see if HR worked, how HR works, and how different methodologies could actually make the HR team better in different sectors. So I started early days in semiconductor at Applied Materials and really learned the craft. Went to E-Trade Financial, and that was a time where stock brokerage was just going online.
Yeah, that was like the big time for E-Trade, right?
Yeah, big time for E-Trade, and it was a great time for the financial sector it's a whole, the fintech 1.0, right?
Yeah.
So really helped to build that organization up. And then from there went on to Google with a little stop of my own startup that was a great experience as well. And then Google, which really changed my perspective of how the people team can work.
Yeah.
And it was such explosive growth. And and we were building the organization from the ground up. Really helped to shape my understanding. And then I went to Tesla and I got there, it was 400 people when I got there.
Yeah. And then how big was it when you left?
And it was almost 40,000 people.
Jeez.
Yeah. And it was a scrappy startup with a great mission. And I learned a ton of lessons, got into the mix and many things we can explore a little bit. And then from there, I went into healthcare and did another startup in digital health that got acquired by Teladoc Health eventually, and then from there I made the jump to Snowflake, and I just love it. It's been an amazing journey here.
Did you always know you wanted to be in HR? Because I certainly didn't. I didn't even know it was like a thing.
It's really funny actually. When I was in high school, I don't know if they do this anymore, Jessica. I don't know if they do this anymore, but I I took this, you take this personality exam or like work style exam, and it tells you what kind of trade you need to go into when you grow up. It was, and then you could, I took it, and it said to be a business psychologist. That was the outcome of my little evaluation.
Okay.
It's something all the high school kids took just to help them think about what careers they want to take.
Yeah.
So, not that helped me span or direct my my career, but it really solidified in me, like, I like the people aspect, and I like the business aspect, and I like the intersection between those, the interaction of those, and how that can really shape companies. And so I pursued that in college, and went into human resources right out of college, and it just felt so right to me.
Yeah. Well, that's more calculated a little bit than I was. I just, I grew up in Kentucky. I went to art school. I was going to be an artist. I wanted to paint, but fell into the people thing, and really, because I view myself as a creative person, but I didn't know that, business was so creative, and I found like that creative outlet through solving business problems, and, and didn't look back. And then got to meet people like you. So through your career, you've, I'm sure, worked at these amazing companies, but you've had your challenges, right? And this, as I was kind of setting this up, this role is really challenging. What do you think about the role is the hardest? And what do you think has allowed you to navigate through all of the headwinds and the challenges that we face?
So there's three principles that I realized were common themes in all of my experiences. Maybe we'll start there. The first is I realized how important, especially working for engineering organizations, how important the people analytics function is. So when I got to Tesla, for example, the team didn't really exist. So we built out a really smart data analytics, people analytics function, so I could measure everything. Mm-hmm. So I could look at all the programs that I would launch and make sure I understood if they worked, they didn't work, and I would have clear understanding about it. The second theme that I've learned is around unfiltered communication, that you just need to provide open feedback along the way to course correct immediately. Don't guess around, don't beat around the bush. Just really give great feedback with each other, and then go to who you need to go to get the answer. Like, don't worry about hierarchy.
Right.
Right. And the next, really important, is that the HR team, the people team, needs to be just as innovative, just as creative as the rest of the organization. So it should go toe to toe with engineering, toe to toe with product, to deliver amazing products and amazing information to the organization. So you have to have an organization that is curious and vivacious and innovative and tries things and experiments. So I realized that combination seemed to be the right set of ingredients to make me successful and make the team successful in each of those companies.
Yeah, no, I talk a lot about the fact that you have to kind of think like a product innovator, because that's what you're doing. And I think a lot of teams, and there's nothing wrong with like looking and learning at what other companies have done. But there tends to be a little bit more copy and pasting instead of creativity and thinking a little bit more uniquely about your organization and your people and what's going to work for you. Because, what worked for you at Tesla wasn't what would work for me at Netflix. Right. But I think a lot of people don't experiment enough and don't test enough, and maybe try to apply the playbook a little too often.
Yeah, I agree with you. That there's a lot of cut and pasting, or I'll just use whatever I did in my last company and do it here. Right. And it doesn't work. Right. It has to be different flavors. It has to be different combinations, or you won't deliver the same products to the organization, because that's not what's needed to make it grow. So you do have to be flexible, you have to be curious, you have to experiment, but it's good to have those experiences because you can draw from them, but you definitely have to modify and customize per organization.
Yeah. And you have to be willing to fail, right? And throw out the things that aren't working. And I think a lot of teams stick with things a little bit too long and they're not really moving the needle for the business. And you gotta be willing to admit when you're wrong.
Yeah, and that's I totally agree, and that's why the magic of the people analytics function is so important.
Yeah.
Because you can measure why it failed. You
Right.
can look at the variables and say, well, it failed. Let me see what type of customization I need to do now to make it work better. And you can report that out. But if you just try something and fail without really measuring it or without really understanding what happened, then you're in the darkness. And
Yeah.
you're not really making, because then you could fail over and over again if you don't learn from them.
Right.
So
It's all about the
I love
learning.
the idea of failing, but also
Yeah.
measure what
Yeah.
you're doing so you can then tweak it in the right way next time. And you can show and demonstrate how you've customized it. And that is the language that engineering likes to see because they also do the same type of methodology.
That's right.
So as long as I can use that common language and show, all right, it failed, but I know why I did it, and we're going to try it this way next time. Usually organizations accept that as, yes, that makes total sense, and thanks for iterating.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. How do you set up a good people analytics team? How do you do that? What do you need?
So that's a really good question. It depends on what's needed. So usually what I've looked at is I grab people with an economics background because I found that those people can help me with comp analyses and look at benchmarking data. So it really helps to have people with econ backgrounds. I love statisticians on the team. They help to look at probabilities and help me with thinking about experimentation. Sometimes I brought in folks that are psychological, they're experimental psychology because they know about doing experiments. And so I bring those folks in as well, and mathematicians. So I do a combination of different backgrounds because you can apply them to all the different areas within the people function, from benefits to compensation. They can bring this level of expertise, level of depth of analyses. So I've done that type of approach where I've mixed it up a little bit with different types of backgrounds, and not necessarily people who have studied human resources or studied business, but studied those type of analytical disciplines that can provide a fresh perspective on a certain problem and provide an objective opinion. And I really appreciate that. So I kind of start combining that, and I would always cash in some of my headcount to hire those people on board to start that process. And they also would measure the recruiting function, all the different functions. So it just helped me get better. And it really was a anchor to the people organization in each company.
Yeah. And was this something that you learned from Google, or is this just something that you kind of learned over time?
So Google highly, highly reinforced this, and working with Laszlo Bach and working with the rest of the team out there, how important the people analytics function, how influential it was to the world, right? So my time there was really spent solidifying. I did metrics in the past, but they were very rudimentary in prior companies. But really, the time at Google provided this expansive look at what people analytics could do and how it could have a great influence on the direction of the company. And that really stuck with me.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. Because I think this is a challenge for many HR leaders is how do they, form a people analytics team that's getting them great data and insights. But then how do you package that up and tell a story to the executive team to move the needle in terms of, what really needs to happen, what matters, and how do you get that alignment and how do you influence them? So maybe tell us the story of some data that you were getting and you had to really get the organization at the top to get aligned, and then what was the strategy that you had from that?
Yeah. So the storytelling with data is really important. And what I would try to do is, first of all, make sure all the data is very clean, because what really is the the Achilles heel is when you give data and they say, well, that's not right. The data's not right. So I can't do any analyses on this or any insights. It doesn't make sense. So you have to make sure your data is really clean and spend time doing that. And in multiple companies, I've looked at the data first and did auditing and make sure it was super clean. But then once you have that, then you can agree on, okay, the data is clean, everyone agrees on it. Then you create some basic analytic tools that looks at the data. So everyone can see the same data and you report at the same time. So everyone looks at the same set of information. Then you do your insights analysis on it and start to make interpretations. What I usually like to do is, if I have clean data and basic analytics, I can actually stop there for a minute and show this to the organization, saying, look, we have measured and this is what we're seeing in terms of the data. And then everybody agrees on it. Then here's our interpretation. Here's the storytelling around it. And so you debate the interpretation. You don't debate the quality of the data, but you shift to how these insights are going to impact the business. A lot of HR teams I found, and I was part of that as well, get caught in trying to prove the data is correct. And you can never get out of that kind of that hole until it's super clean and you build credibility around it. But once you have that, then you can shift to analytics, to storytelling, to insights, to business decisions. And that's where the magic of HR is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that you said that. And I wholeheartedly agree. And I think when you're in the unproven stage, it's an endless fight and you're never going to win that fight. To your point, it's got to be clean. And then you're debating the real stuff.
Yes.
Right? Like, and the stuff that actually will move the needle. So thank you for saying that. So I want to get to Snowflake in a minute because it's so exciting what you're doing there. But you were on this crazy journey at Tesla from 400 to 40,000. What was that like?
So again, the organization was a highly engineering mindset.
Yeah.
And kind of going back to what I mentioned, when I got there, I had 5 people on the people team. That was included all the recruiting, benefits, everybody, all included. It was 5 people.
Yeah.
And I said, this is not going to, based on where the company's going, this is not going to work in terms of scaling the company. So I had to really invest first in the team, and I built the analytics team first. To make sure, just as I mentioned before, brought in people with econ backgrounds, brought in people with stats backgrounds, and really built that out. Then I built a recruiting organization that these hardcore recruiters were just ready to rock and roll. And I would say, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to build out the talent of the organization. We're going to hire lots of amazing people. We're going to measure how we're doing it. And I'm not going to build any part else of the organization. I'll just kind of run it in the background. And so what I tried to do is, the whole concept was to build credibility that we could scale. We could scale intelligently, and we know the type of sources of talent that we need to go after, how they were doing in the company, the profiles of people that were working at the company. So I really doubled down on the whole talent portion of the people function to prove concept, because it was all about growing. I mean, going from 400 to 40,000 in a few years.
How many years was that?
That was around 7.5 years. We got to the 40,000 mark. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was a big, and then once I built that function, it proved concept. We were growing the company fast, and then it gave me a little bit of social capital, it gave me a little bit of goodwill, and I could build the other functions behind it. So, that was just how I had to build the organization, and I had to figure all that out and do it fast and make sure that we were delivering high quality people.
But I think the point that you're making, and maybe this is something good for people to listen to, you were really building a foundation, right? So that you had a steady, place to build from. You weren't just sort of building, right? Like a wobbly building. You were building like a strong foundation that you could build upon, and you focused on sort of the right things first versus, trying to boil the ocean. Right? Like you weren't trying to do everything. You were like, I'm going to do these few things, and I'm going to do them really well, and we're going to prove it, and then we're going to build from there. And I think that, sometimes when you're building, it's hard to figure out what not to do, right? And you're trying to do everything. So I think that's important for people to listen to.
Yeah, no, I agree, Jessica. And it goes back to what we mentioned before is because, again, this is an engineering organization, I had to build that people analytics team as a foundation, as you mentioned, so I could show what we were doing. So I could show how we were building the function, what we're going after, how we were thinking about the organization, all in analytics and insights.
Yeah.
And I couldn't come with feelings.
Yeah.
Right? But because engineers need to see the data and how you're transforming. So that was really that was the foundation. Then I could build on top of that.
Yeah.
But it was really on that people analytics and talent function was the primary foundation to build the company, as you mentioned. It was intentional and it was sequential.
Yeah. What for you changed in you as a leader from 400 to 40,000? Like what was different about you as a leader from small to big?
Yeah. So you have to transform with the company.
Yeah.
And there's a balance along the way of what you keep scrappy and innovative and what you build some structure around. Yeah. And you have to be really careful because sometimes structure can stifle creativity. Sometimes structure can be encumbersome. Yeah. So we were so intentional about as we scaled, I would make judgment calls. Like, I think we need to preserve this as a flexible environment. Let's not create a policy around it. Let's not create a structure around it. Let's keep it free form and human led.
Right.
and then for stuff that was around how we scale certain functions or how we scale operations, how we look at compensation programs, within the people team, how we look at leveling, we had to build some structure around that. So when you hit 10,000 people, things change in the company. Mm-hmm. So we were really intentional about, let's not do it for the sake of, because we can do it, build a structure around it. Let's actually say, let's not build something that just should be human decisions and should be free form and innovative, but structure that's only scaffolding that allows people to have some guidance.
Right.
Some parameters, because that's what's needed at the time. So for me, the question was, I had to resist sometimes building those structures, even though sometimes in the playbook it says to do that.
Yeah.
I say, for this environment, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it's going to be accepted. I think it's going to be rejected, and I think we're going to lose credibility. I think we need to keep this and preserve the human aspect here. But here, I think it's fine to build that because that's the backstop of all these other programs. And it's okay to build some scaffolding over here. So we had to be really careful about it and do a balance.
No, and I love the human-led thing. I love that you're saying that because I do think that you do have to resist because it's so chaotic, right? And you're trying to control all this chaos. And I see all these companies and it's all well intended. It's all coming from a really good place because you're trying to help. You're trying to be helpful. But to control the chaos, you put in these processes and these policies that end up really stifling creativity and stifling growth and stifling innovation. And you're slowing the whole company down. And I love that lens of like, where do we need the humans to continue to lead and to have that freedom? And where do we need scaffolding? And maybe it's guidance, it's just a little bit of structure to help people get to the right place. So, that's so important.
Yeah. And one thing I'll add is, and even the nomenclature was really important. I avoided calling things policies and I would call them guidelines. Mm. Yeah. So, it really made a difference in terms of how it was received.
Sure.
Because a policy, here's an HR policy.
Yeah.
But here are some guidelines to help us do our job better.
Yeah.
Sometimes just the nomenclature actually helps with adoption.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah. All in the naming.
That's right. That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah. Because mine was like, it's a test. We're testing. And our engineers love testing and they would do it. Okay. So take us to Snowflake. So tell us a little bit about Snowflake. Why were you so intrigued? And then I'm really excited to get into the work that you're doing there.
Sure. So it was my dream to go into the whole field of AI, to look at data. I love it. And you see this data theme throughout my life, how important it was. And now married with AI technology, it just seemed like a candy store to me. And I was so honored to be chosen to come and help at this phase of growth at Snowflake. So it is a company that really focuses on data analytics and AI and enabling companies to have this AI capability. And I look at this also from an HR perspective, from a people perspective. We need to be just as innovative, just as creative in this space as our product and engineering teams are putting amazing things out into the world. So I've looked at the last year and so that I've been here, how do we create a whole set of approaches and guidelines and applications and capability to enable the people team to amplify their work, and that where teams have not been able to do it before in other companies, but that we have access to so many tools. So my focus has been on enabling the people team to grow and innovate as fast as our engineering organization and really deliver some amazing products.
So what are you doing? How did you decide what to focus on, what not to focus on, where to start? I think a lot of companies are struggling with this, and a lot of HR leaders are struggling with this because, all of a sudden now they have to be the AI strategist, not just the HR strategist, right? And that nobody's figured it out, right? And so what's your advice in how to think about it, where to start, what to try, what not to try?
So first we came out with a framework. And the framework, there's three parts of the framework, and this helps to build some guidelines around how we're going to implement different programs. The first one is all the tasks that are repetitive, we're going to automate through AI. Things that require creativity, we're going to augment through AI and have that partnership. And things that need to stay empathetic and have judgment calls and are human led, we'll preserve for the human. We'll avoid using AI. So having that framework, then we were able to say, okay, let's look across all of our programs and all of our tasks that we're doing. Let's look at some small wins we can do and start to look at the repetitive tasks and start there. And then
what's a good example of that?
Sure.
For you guys.
A great example is our job description generation. Mm-hmm. So we're scaling just like other companies are, and sometimes it takes 45 minutes to an hour to write a job description. You look at some ones in the archive, you pull it in, you put it in a doc, you're editing it. Yeah. It just takes time. Yeah. So we said, and all the recruiters are working on it. All the managers have to review it and edit it. There's hours and hours and hours of human time applied to that process. So I said, let's try to build a job description generator that can get it done in 5 minutes. So basically, we build an application on top of our Snowflake capability, and you put in to a couple keywords, and it takes all of the job descriptions in the archive. It looks at benchmarks, it looks at data, all the data, it pulls it all in, and within 5 minutes, based on it really takes 10 seconds to do it, but 5 minutes for you to put your variables in. Yeah. And then it comes out with a beautiful job description, exactly like 99% there. Everybody looks at it, blesses it, and we post it within 15 minutes. That's already saved several years of human time. Of just repetitive tasks of doing that over and over again. And so
I hated writing job descriptions.
Recruiters love it.
I hated
writing job description. It was simple, and it was non-threatening to the team.
Right. Well, let's talk about that for a second, because again, and as you were talking, I started thinking, this isn't taking somebody's job. Like this, there's not like a professional job description writer, but now you're taking the recruiter's time and the manager's time, and they're actually able to focus on the more important stuff, versus like spending an hour writing a job description. So it's amplifying the work, not taking a job away.
Our philosophy is that AI is going to help amplify all of those components that are repetitive tasks, really do it really well, and leave you time to connect, to build connections, right? To talk to candidates, to do the interviews, to really engage on the human aspects of it, to do much more value-added work. So exactly right. It just takes away those components that are just tedious,
Right.
and allows you time to be a connector, to be human.
Mm-hmm. You're maybe lucky that you work in an AI, first company. What about the folks that aren't, working in an AI focused organization? Like, how do they get the top excited? How do they get the people excited about experimenting and trying new initiatives around AI?
Well, there are, I think, using the framework that I mentioned before, where say, hey, let's just try this, right? Let's try on some repetitive tasks. Let's approach and do some small wins when it comes to things that are just taking time out of our day, to show that there is actually a benefit to productivity. There's a benefit to amplifying other parts of the work that are more meaningful. So what's nice if you're that some of the tools out there, some of the applicant tracking tools and other employee type tools, they are starting to implement AI tool sets within it. So you can still leverage and do things on a small scale and do these small wins to prove concept, because some companies are not quite sure about this yet, and they don't know where to start. My advice is start with the small wins, right? A lot of tools out there. Job descriptions, and just implement that, and that will save time. And implement it for the company, and then telegraph that out to the company, saying, "Look what we did."
Yeah.
Right. And you create that win, and then they say, "Well, try something else." One of the things that I've mentioned to my own team is I want everybody every day to think of what you could automate, right, on your daily task. Just you go through the day and say, "Wow, I'm really tired doing this every day. It seems to be rote. It's tedious." And put it on a list, right? It's like everyday innovation.
Yeah.
Everyday AI. And any company can do that. They can just go and start documenting everything they're doing that's tedious and repetitive, and then say, okay, how could we tackle a group of these and make some make some small wins for the company that turns into a big impact?
Yeah. And so what are, you kind of started out with job descriptions, and what are you all doing now? Like what type of gains are you seeing? What type of, what change in productivity are you recognizing?
So just in the sheer, I'll do like a broad brush on this, is that the recruiting team with the same amount of people hired 20% more people, right, than they did the prior year with the same amount of people. Wow. And it's because we've looked at our process flow, and they could focus on candidate engagement. They could focus on interview, but even, what we also automated is interview feedback. So there's a lot of tools, even in your video tools, that record or help summarize your video into a script.
Right.
So we've implemented that across the board. And so they're not even having to write interview feedback. None of it, the managers, interviewers don't have to do that. They can it goes directly into the tool. So you've automated all the stuff away, so you can focus on candidate engagement and closing candidates and building those relationships and searching for people, just really. So we found that just taking the tedious tasks away across the board for everybody has improved tremendously our recruiting capability.
That's amazing. 20% more with the same amount of people. Pretty good. Pretty good. Now, are you testing? So you've done a lot of, sort of work within the people organization. Are you also expanding this more broadly in the organization at Snowflake, like to different functions?
So all the teams are definitely looking at different tools. So we have we have some comp tools that look at take benchmark data, and you can help comp and offer. So the comp team is helping to automate something that's much more elegant than what we have that's out there on the market.
Yeah. Why is comp so hard?
Yeah, it's because it's very nuanced. There's the data portion of it, and then there's the art of comp.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's
it's
so
really the
hard.
art of comp that makes it difficult
It
because
is,
you
but
have to
it's
wrap
also the
around philosophy.
data. The data is outdated a lot of times.
Mm.
It's like 6 months behind. I don't know. It's just it's just one of the frustrations that I have. And, I don't know. Market data for me is always what the willingness of someone to pay my talent, what that is. And I want that data, right? I don't want to know what they wanted to pay them 6 months ago, right? But anyways, it's just,
Yeah.
I'm great. I'm complaining. But
No, no,
anyways,
I get it. I get it. Yeah, no, it's tough.
but it is art and science
It
and
is
the
an art and
art.
science. Yeah,
Yeah.
conversation with art and science. So at least we can take the data and have it as good as possible,
Yeah.
and it does provide guidance to how to think about setting
Right.
offers, doing things for promotion. So we're building those tools internally.
Yeah. And I mean, it's interesting too, because if you're building your own, sort of comp agent, you can train it to know your organization.
Exactly.
Right. And it will know all the promotion history of folks
That's right.
and what,
It
yeah.
takes it right out of our people database. It knows all the data, so it
Yeah.
has able to make and it learns.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
And then what about like outside of HR? Like, I'm guessing every team at Snowflake is on this journey. And so what are other teams' experience? Is there sort of a alignment, from, executives on like, what we want to see as an organization as a whole, or?
Every team is elevating itself through this technology and through different AI journeys. So I'll give you another great example. We partner closely with we call them the enterprise technology team, the ET team, and basically we're creating a Snowflake intelligence application for everyone to use, where you can access any application in the organization through the Snowflake portal. And sometimes there's bots around that just do lookups. Hey, what's the vacation policy, or what's the policy on leaves?
Right.
But we're also creating agents that you just tell it in natural language. You say, I need to take a break. I need to go on vacation, 2 months from now, this Friday and Saturday, Thursday, Friday, and, combine it all together. And the agent will go into the people system, do all of your PTO for you, and come back and say it's done. So you don't have to go into multiple applications to fill out a PTO request, for example, for across all employees across the company.
Yeah.
So it's not just doing it for ourselves, a people function, but it's giving enablement to everybody in the company. Every single employee has access to this on a daily basis, and it makes their life better. Like, wow, I can just go into the Snowflake Intelligence assistant, put in what I want it in normal language, and it does it for me. Right. And that's a roadmap that we're doing across the company, and over the course of the year, make it better and better and better. And the ultimate goal is that people love working for the company that's easy to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They don't want to work for a company that is cumbersome or hard, or it's difficult, or too much policy. They really want to work for a company that you can just interface with it, and it's a pleasure.
Yeah. Easy. Yeah.
Easy.
Okay. So, because we don't have too much more time, which is unfortunate, but I guess what are you excited about? Because I'm going to ask you to predict the future, which I know you can't. But what are you excited about that you think is going to be different 3 to 5 years from now with what we're all experiencing with AI?
Well, I kind of hinted towards it just a couple of seconds ago, but it's the ability to use natural language to tell a agent what to do. Like right now, there's still a little bit lean towards those. You have to be a developer to really develop the agents and use code to tell the agent what to do. But the advancement is going to be that bridge, that or the barrier between those two, being technical and non-technical, is going to go away. It's going to become a bridge. And if you're non-technical, you can just ask anything you need in your native language, and it will do it for you. So really the future is ease of use. The future is people with better communication skills and be able to prompt the application do what it needs to do. All the people with humanities backgrounds out there they're going to be overjoyed because they're able to then be just as effective as an engineer because you're using natural language capability to interface with the AI tools. And that's the future. I mean, it's going to be easy and connective.
Yeah. And so what do you think this is my final question. What do you think is more important, from a skills perspective today, for people to be focused on? If we're going to be embracing AI and that's going to be taking away some of these more task oriented, parts of our jobs, what do we need to be getting better at and learning ourselves?
I think the core thing is, and again, I really believe AI is here to amplify, right, all the good parts of our work, but we need to be ultimately curious. I think the people who are naturally curious and will experiment with things and will try different things, they're going to win out, because you want someone who's curious and will just I'm going to try this. I'm going to try to interface. I'm going to try to work with this application. So natural curiosity is really important. The second is around communication. Mm-hmm. So you just have to be able to use your communication skills to interface with all the tools. So that's really an important set of skill sets that people can just think about. How would I make the right amount of words, to create the right prompt to allow this tool to deliver what I'm asking it to deliver. So communication skills are really important. And I think judgment is going to be also super important for people.
Yeah.
And what I mean by judgment is that, remember before this framework that we put in place where when it's human-led, you need to keep it human-led. You need to preserve that. So you have to have the judgment to say, that's as far as I want to go with AI. I want to keep the rest human-led. Mm. And you have to have the judgment to be able to do that, to preserve those aspects that maintain our humanity.
Yeah. My gosh. I was going to ask you to leave us with one piece of advice, but I think that that's the best advice, is really what you just said. So human-led people. I love that. Okay. Will you do a career confession with me?
Sure.
You sound nervous. You do this all day, Arnnon. You're going to be great. Okay. I'll set it up with some context and then we'll ask the question. So here's the context. Sometimes building for speed and scale can create pressure to optimize orgs like machines, even though real growth depends on humans' emotion and identity. How do you maintain, well, I think you kind of answered this already, but how do you maintain humanity, creativity, and psychological safety inside a high-performance culture that must move fast and deliver at enterprise scale?
Yeah. So I think it goes back to my framework a little bit, where it's okay the repetitive, it's okay to automate with AI. You augment the creative, but you have to intentionally preserve and speak out and say, we need to preserve this as a human-led set of responsibilities that we cannot let go of.
Yeah.
So even in a high-performance culture where, what sometimes keeps me up at night is AI with no direction, just hug wild AI. You can't have that. You need to actually take a step back, make the judgment call, and say, we need to preserve this area and make sure it's human-led.
Mm-hmm. I love that. It's perfect advice. I couldn't give better. So thank you. And listen, Arnnon, if people want to find out more about you, where can they go find you?
Yeah, my one-stop shop is LinkedIn. Just look me up, send me a note, send me an invite, and I'd love to connect with you. Yay.
Well, gosh, I hate that it took a podcast for us to reconnect, but hopefully we'll be hanging out, before, I don't know how many years passed us by, but hopefully we won't let that many. Yeah, let's not let that happen. I'm going to be reaching out because I'm so excited about what you're doing. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing all your insights with us. We really loved it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Yay.
Thanks for listening to TruthWorks.